Well, greetings, fellow thinkers and drinkers. Now, in several videos of a more recent vintage, I have discussed at length Deep Purple and their live sets. In particular, I had a go at the Steve Morse era, live set, the Steve Morse era, and how very little, relatively, and in percentage terms, shall we say, that music was actually represented live. I'm not going to rehash all that here. Now, having approached that subject from various different angles, expressing a little bit of frustration and dissatisfaction at what they actually did, I suppose at some point it was inevitable that I'd get around to giving my opinion on what they should have done. And as Oscar Wilde famously observed, I can resist anything apart from temptation. Now, obviously, this is going to be a counterfactual, a work of fantasy, a wish list, if you like. But still, we can have some fun in life, can we not? Despite the somewhat fantastical nature of what I'm about to discuss, I have tried to keep it within the bounds of reality, despite the almost omnipotent powers something like this gives one in creating any type of situation. I've tried to keep it realistic for reasons I hope I will become clear, but I will return to at the end. Now, this resulted in some ground rules. First thing is, I wished to include as much Morse-era material in this as was reasonably possible. Thus, I have set what I'm about to describe post-whoosh, and pretending, in this case, that the pandemic never happened. It's just getting better and better, isn't it? Now, the scenario I have concocted is that the band would undertake a 40-date European tour, as they habitually do, from around October to end of November, beginning of December, something like that. Now, I deliberately made it a European tour, for I genuinely do not believe that they would get away with this in the US or in North America. And the tour would be booked and advertised and promoted as a celebration of the Steve Morse era. I'm sure they'll come up with a better caption than that, but, no false advertising here. Nobody should be turning up expecting to hear, other material. And I do this not only to inform the public, but as Mike, another subscriber, mentioned to me recently, that, the promoters may have something to say about this. They may start to get cold feet. Another reason why I think this would only actually work in Europe, may work in South America, well, elsewhere, but, fundamentally. Which, if the promoters did start to get slightly nervous about it, may actually be a good thing in and of itself. Now, the points I'm getting at here is, in 2002, I happened to be in the UK. And I saw Deep Purple in February on what was supposed to be John Lord's farewell tour. Now, I saw them in Sheffield City Hall, if I recall correct now. I don't know when this was built, but it did evoke what one thinks of as a typical classy, stylish, Victorian, Edwardian era theatre. I think it has a capacity of about 2,500 people. And I have to say, it was one of the best performances I've ever seen by the band, and I saw them over 40 times with Morse. And the joy of being in these venues is you actually feel as though you are at the same event as are the band. It's a very different, and in my opinion, much superior experience to seeing in these soulless, cavernous arenas. Which does not mean I am at all ignorant of the realities of touring and the business aspect of that, but I'm just saying, from an aesthetic point of view, or an enjoyment point of view, this is a far superior experience. And if they announced these 40 dates focusing on the Morse-era, and the promoters did get a little bit of cold feet, and they were only booking them into these theater-style venues or size venues. Then, fuck me. Guys, you could take the knock, in the interest of artistic integrity, surely. They could have taken the knock, okay? So anyway, why did I say 40 shows? Well, very simple. When I went through the 7 studio albums, and I said, yep, no, and I came up with a list of over 40 songs, which presented one or two logistical challenges, which included me to make some further decisions about the nature of these shows. There would be no solos involved. No drum, no guitar, no bass solos. What do I mean? Well, these have become, over many years now, increasingly choreographed. You don't need to see the guys running through their practice routine. Okay? Maybe being a little harsh there. But no. If, on the other hand, they genuinely want to take any of the songs from the set and expand it and do some genuine improvisation, then absolutely more power to them. I'd love to hear it. But I don't want any of these, prearranged solo spots. I want as many songs as possible in the shows. Okay? So, all right, back to the 40 shows. Given the amount of material, I have created 2 almost entirely different sets, which they would play on alternate nights. Thus, the need for a round number of shows. Okay? The one exception to this is Smoke on the Water. For I simply cannot imagine them getting away with not playing it. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Black Sabbath has to play Paranoid. Led Zeppelin would have to play Stairway to Heaven, no matter what else they played or didn't play. But okay. There you have it. Now, having set the scene, the first set, I think, is going to look something like this. They're going to open with Kiss Tomorrow, Goodbye. Nice, in-your-face, rocker opener. Works well live. I heard it. I'm sure many of you did as well. It's a good, strong live song. And follow that up with Weirdistan. It's a really great track, isn't it? But again, they never actually played that live. But I can see it fitting in, second song in. And I would be following that up with The Long Way Round. It's one of my favorites from Whoosh. I just like it. It's got drive. It's got a rock and roll type feel to it. Again, you can imagine this very much working in a live setting. Okay. Wrong Man would be up next. Again, another very successful live song until they dropped it, which I'd follow with Hell to Pay. Again, not much else to say. Another one that I know worked very well on stage. Throw My Bones up next. Did get a few live outings, but not many. I actually think it's one of those songs I didn't particularly take to it when I first heard it, but over the years has really grown on me. It's got some great musical dynamic to it. And I think it's, very much justifies its inclusion. I would follow it up with Watching the Sky. I do have my problems with that song, as anybody will know who's watched my review of Abandon. I do feel it's slightly unfinished, but at least the first 3 quarters of it, I think, are really effective. It's got a nice, eerie, almost mood to it. It just seems to run out of steam, but, live, maybe they could, give it a better ending or something like that. But no, I think it's well worth including. Ditto for the Perpendicular Waltz as well. That's always sounded good live, and anybody that has the Live at the Olympia official bootleg, I'm sure will attest. But again, it's one of those things, they dropped it far too quickly. I'd follow that with Loosen My Strings. Always been one of my very favorite Deep Purple songs, not just of the Morse-era. Very few live performances, tragically. I think it really has to be included. Follow it up with Almost Human, which was the Abandon Era song that did get the most live performances. And again, it works well live. As I said when I reviewed Abandon, this did not impress me at all until I saw them do it on stage, where it took on an almost completely different form. It's very, very effective. Now, I wanted to include as much material as I said, and at one point it looked as though I was going to be ignoring Bananas totally. There's only a couple of things that really, in my case, sort of were pushing for any sort of attention, and one of them is Never a Word, something they never played live, but yeah, it would just bring the mood down a little bit, wouldn't it? A nice change of pace. It's one of those things that if not necessarily just to play it as they recorded it on the album, but if they could give it, a slightly a live arrangement of it, just to make something slightly more of it, I would like to hear it. I follow that up with Above and Beyond, again, another really great live song, which they dropped far too quickly. After that, Birds of Prey, again, one of the best songs they've written, and again, dropped far too quickly. Cascades, I think, has to be included, at least in one of the sets, doesn't it? I mean, I don't want to repeat myself on everything I said in the last videos, but it's something that came and went far too quickly. It was a great live song. Out of Hand, another one from Now What that never actually made it to the stage, but I think it's got an awful lot of potential. Heading for the Home Straight, Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming, was going to feature in one of the sets, absolutely had to, so I've put it in here. I followed it with Seventh Heaven, which should be another, it is, for my money, another Deep Purple anthem, but, it's, again, they didn't seem to share my view. And the main set will be closed with Smoke on the Water. Come encore time, I go for Any Fool Know That. And I'd like them to keep the arrangement they did largely on the Abandoned tour. Again, it's another one of those songs on the record. It's unfinished to me. But they gave Morse an extended solo, as opposed to the rather pointless fade-out that it enjoyed on the album. I really like that live arrangement. Hope they would keep that. Then I play Hey Cisco. Did feature as an encore back on the Perpendicular tour. Worked very well there. And again, I think, it's a nice, big, rousing song, the sort of thing where, makes good encore material. And obviously, because of this rapturous response to this outstanding performance, they're going to have to come back for another encore, aren't they? And I've decided in this set, it's going to be 69, which was, I saw them at least do that one live, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, as I have to say, did everybody else in the auditorium. Again, another one, didn't get too many performances. Well, there you have it. Set 1, just a recap. Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, Weirdistan, The Long Way Round, Wrong Man, Hell to Pay, Throw My Bonds, Watching the Sky, Perpendicular Waltz, Loosen My Strings, Almost Human, Never a Word, Above and Beyond, Birds of Prey, Cascades, Out of Hand, Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming, Seventh Heaven, Smoke on the Water, Any Fool Know That, Hey Cisco, and 69. So that would be the opening night of the tour, and after that everybody would be desperately running out to make sure they had tickets for the second date, would they not? Now, for the second set, I've tried to give it some symmetry in terms of, matching songs up in pacing and sequencing. And I couldn't get it 100% right, but I did my best. So, set 2, It's going to open with Time for Bedlam. Again, a very effective opener. I saw them use it. Worked very well. Really nice, heavy song. Especially effective live. I'll follow this up with Things I Never Said, which is one of those Morse-era songs that almost should have had, permanent residency in the set. In that second place position, when they debuted, it followed from Pictures of Home so seamlessly, and it's just such a great live song. The opening trio will culminate on this night with a simple song. Again, an absolute classic, never played live. Haven't yet reviewed Now What for the channel, but one thing I will say is this is just such a great song, but again, I got a feeling it's too short. They could have made a little bit more of it, and maybe in a live situation, a live setting, they could well do that, but it absolutely has to be included. I'd follow it with Nothing at All. Yes, that had from Whoosh. That's the one that certainly got the most live performances, 60 odd, nearly 70. And it is absolutely a really great song, and it is just one of those things that just screams Steve Morse. Oh, Steve Morse era Deep Purple. Absolutely essential inclusion. To be followed by All I Got Is You. Another one that worked well live but was discarded far, far, far too quickly. Well, and follow it up with Man Alive. Yeah, from Whoosh. Another really, really strong effort. I don't think ever played live, but I really would like to hear it. Now, after that, I've got them playing Before Time Began. Now, I was fortunate enough to hear this because I caught them very early on the Rapture of the Deep tour, and this was quite proggy at the time. In some ways, the standout track of the album, certainly the most adventurous, most interesting, and it came across very, very well live, only to disappear very, very quickly. I followed up with Evil Louie. Always been one of my favorites from a band, and it's mean, it's menacing, it's heavy as hell. And again, I saw them do it live, and it went down very, very well. Slight change of pace. I'd really like to hear a live take of Clearly Quite Absurd. If we're looking for a place to give Airy a chance to, take the solo, do some jamming and improvisation around it, I think the solo at the end of Clearly Quite Absurd would be opposite, shall we say. Follow that with Vincent Price, another great live song. They did retain that in the set for much longer than a lot of other material, and rightly so. It worked very well. Follow that with The Aviator, which again, I have seen them play live, and again, I think worked really well. Which in this set is being followed by Uncommon Man. Now this has cemented itself in the set. I don't think they've dropped it since they debuted on the Now What tour. And it has become their tribute to John Lord, has it not? Maybe that's the explanation for its retention. I don't know. Very good song, no doubt. And I'm happy to retain it in my set. The Surprising up next, a very ambitious, very inspiring song, which again worked very well live, and again did not hang around that long. I did get, I've already mentioned in the previous set, I did get an inclusion from Bananas in the set, but in terms of set symmetry, I was looking for something to, off-balance cascades in the first set, the sequencing. And I thought, well, why not Bananas? It's a good song. Why not? And it's got that required drive to it, So yeah, that's in next. That would be followed by Somebody Stole My Guitar, which is it's another one. It's just so much fun, is it not? And again, was criminally, discarded from the set far too early. Follow that up with Fingers to the Bone, another absolute Morse-era classic. In this case, the offset is to Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming in the first set, but I think it certainly has all the necessary credentials to take that place. Then Rapture of the Deep almost has to be played, does it not? Again, it's another one of the songs that should have been, semi-permanent fixture in the set. And then we finish with, Smoke on the Water, because I suppose we just have to, do we not? Encores on this occasion, Ted the Mechanic. Why not? And Johnny's Band. It's another one of those songs. I never liked it when I first heard it until I heard them play it live. And so I think it's good encore material. And again, the crowd are going wild, so they're going to have to come back for a second encore. And where it was 69 last time, it's now going to be A Castle Full of Rascals. They never played it live, sadly. I think it would be really effective on stage. All right, that's set 2. Just a brief recap then. It's time for Bedlam. Things I Never Said. A simple song. Nothing at all. All I Got Is You, Man Alive, Before Time Began, Evil Louie, Clearly Quite Absurd, Vincent Price, The Aviator, Uncommon Man, The Surprising, Bananas, Somebody Stole My Guitar, Fingers to the Bone, Rapture of the Deep, Smoke on the Water, Ted the Mechanic, Johnny's Band, and A Castle Full of Rascals. Now, I may have done this for fun, but I do maintain they could have done this. They could have done it at any time, I think, post-Abandon, because, they had 2 albums worth of material. You could have, there was more than enough for a set there. But the later we do this in Morse's career with the band, I think the more value we get, from the experience. And I will say with all confidence, for obviously, it cannot be disproved, that I believe this tour would have been a success. I believe it would have been a success in terms of sales. I've already discussed the types of venue, etc. But I would like to have seen them in a smaller, more intimate venue. But I think it would have been a success in terms of sales, in terms of crowd reaction, and in general terms of the good vibes for the band that it would have generated. And it may also have been highly illuminating for the band itself. And, afterwards, they could, if they wished, have returned to their normal touring cycle and set list. If this had not set the world on fire, or if it was obvious that this was not going to transfer into arenas, that if they were going to do this thing, they were playing the theatres. Who knows? We just don't know what may or may not have happened. But I cannot in any way, shape or form conceive that this type of activity would have failed. But again, obviously, crowd reaction and ticket sales would ultimately dictate that, would they not? Well, it's nice to dream, is it? But, now obviously this is not going to happen now. Whether it would have had Morse remained in the band, I think is very doubtful. But certainly, post his departure, I don't see that happening. And as I mentioned in the video dedicated to the Morse-era live material, I'd be surprised if any of it ever resurfaced again. I hope I'm wrong, but I would be surprised. But anyway, there you have it. That's what I think they should have done. Or that's what I would have liked them to have done. And had they done something like that, believe me, I would have bought at least 2 tickets, because I'd have had to have seen both shows. Well, anyway, there you go. Feel free to pick the bones out of that. And to like, to share, to subscribe, and obviously to comment. I look forward to reading them. And I thank you once again for your indulgence, and as always, wish you well, and until next time, musicianship.